Ford is pretty late to the subcompact crossover game. Competitors from Chevrolet, Honda, Jeep, and Mazda have been going strong for a couple of years, and heck, Nissan's even getting ready to debut its second cute ute. Considering how long it took the 2018 EcoSport to arrive, I was prepared for it to be, well, not great. But I was wrong. Despite its emerging market roots, the Ford EcoSport impressed me with its solid driving dynamics and complement of in-car tech. Sure, it does have a couple of flaws here and there, but what do you expect? It is the least expensive crossover Ford makes. This guy might be late to the party, but buyers will be glad it showed up. The EcoSport is the smallest SUV in its segment, and it feels every bit the part. Now, ingress and egress are super easy, but once you're inside, you will run into some tight spaces. Especially so for the rear passenger, who, when sitting behind a 6-foot-tall driver, is bound to run into some tight confines. You'll be making the most of every inch in this car. Thankfully, there's plenty of space for your junk. There's a tiny cubby right above the also tiny glove box. The doors have troughs with space for water bottles. There's another storage spot in front of the shifter, and you get the tried and true little guy right in between the seats. The cargo does fare a bit better. With 20.9 cubic feet of space, there's more than enough room for a week's worth of groceries for 2 people or a few small carry-on suitcases. Now, it loses out in cargo space to the Honda HR-V, but it does have both the Chevy Trax and Mazda CX-3 beat by more than a few cubic feet. What's weird about the door, though, is that it hinges sideways, not upwards, so you're not protected from the rain, and if you're a fan of parallel parking or backing into your garage, well, you might want to think twice. The EcoSport also packs the smallest engine in its segment, a 1-liter 3-cylinder gas engine. With 123 horsepower and 125 pound-feet on tap, there's not a whole lot to get up and go, but it will move quickly enough if you give her the beans, and you might get a bit of torque steer to boot. The 6-speed automatic does a good job of keeping the buzzy 3-bangers revs close to its sweet spot for torque. Now, I was originally worried that this thing would, well, tear itself to pieces on Michigan's garbage tier roads, but I've been pleasantly surprised. The EcoSport has a surprisingly competent ride that just eats up potholes. Then again, maybe I shouldn't be surprised, because if there's one thing emerging markets have, it's terrible roads, so it makes plenty of sense then that the EcoSport would tackle them with aplomb. My favorite part of this car by far, though, is the mirrors. The mirrors. Now, ordinarily, automakers are more than content enough to cut down the mirror size to help it cut through air and absolutely ruin rearward visibility, but not Ford. Ford has these giant suckers slapped on the side of this EcoSport, and I can see everything both to the side and behind me. I love them. One thing I'm not loving, though, is the fuel economy. The EPA rates the EcoSport at just 29 mpg highway with front-wheel drive, which is the least efficient car in its segment. And things get worse if you opt for the bigger 4-cylinder engine. Thankfully, only City drops from 27 mpg to 23. Caveat emptor on the economy front, really. Nearly every bit of tech you could want on the EcoSport is available. Our titanium trim tester comes with an 8-inch Sync 3 touchscreen infotainment system, but lesser trims have to make do with smaller screens and simpler features. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are included on all models except for the base S trim. Standard equipment across the range includes 2 USB ports and a backup camera. The titanium boosts the infotainment system's capabilities with Sync Connect, which adds a 4G LTE Wi-Fi hotspot and an app suite. The trim also includes the new Bang & Olufsen Play sound system, packing 10 speakers and 675 watts. It's impressive for a mass-market sound system, all the better for drowning out your annoying passengers. If you're interested in learning more about the in-car tech of the EcoSport, feel free to check out our full tech deep dive video, which goes way more in-depth. The most glaring tech omission in the EcoSport, though, comes from its safety systems. Sure, a backup camera is standard across the line, and this titanium trim adds backup sensors and blind spot monitoring. But if you want anything more advanced than that, even a simple auto brake, well, you'll have to look elsewhere. Having exactly as much as you need doesn't seem to be very popular these days, as SUVs continue to grow, and so does the expectation to keep up with the Joneses. Consider this EcoSport then a slap in the face of conspicuous consumption. You can have your cake, it just doesn't need to be the whole cake. Not that it's an expensive cake. The EcoSport starts around $20,000, and the penultimate titanium trim seen here carries a starting price of $25,740. So whether you're a small family, a fresh college grad, or just a regular Joe or Jane who doesn't need all the car in the world, the 2018 EcoSport is a solid contender. It has almost all the tech you need, and it can handle some pretty crappy roads. I was originally worried the EcoSport might be a case of too little too late, but as it turns out, it's neither of those.